In the Roma Theory studio. It's very early to think about Christmas. Not that I want to invite anyone to start thinking about Christmas gifts, Christmas dinners and all of that. But Christmas is a wonderful period, so let's make it start early. Let's welcome the Christmas setup in the Roma Theory studio. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Roma Theory. As today we're discussing two very important things. Today I want to touch on the match which we played this morning, our last day in Japan, and our last match in Japan ended 3-3 between Roma and Yokohama Marinos. So I'll give a few comments about that game. I don't want to completely just dedicate this live stream on that because I don't think it needs to. As I said in the previous live stream, I'll repeat it again in a second. But and then I also want to talk about Daichi Kamada, who is a Japanese player, plays from Eintracht FRANKFURT, and how Roma are talking a lot with Eintracht FRANKFURT, not just on the behalf of Daichi Kamada, but also on the behalf of Evan and Dika, as we discussed yesterday. So there's a lot of talking between the two sides. So apparently Roma are monitoring the situation or starting to prepare some few questions to ask Eintracht Frankfurt about Daichi Kamada, and we'll speak about him as a player and the situation which is going on as just a convo between us and Eintracht Frankfurt, something which is definitely in Thiago Pinto's mind. Eintracht Frankfurt looks like the team we're targeting the most, and we'll talk about that as well, why we were speaking about and with Eintracht Frankfurt a lot. But as promised before, let's touch on just a few comments on today's friendly game against Yokohama Marinos. But before, if you haven't already, I invite you to smash the like button down below. Everyone in the stream right now, take 2 seconds to smash the like button. It supports me a lot. And also, if it's the first time seeing my face on your screen, you know what to do. Click that red button, costs nothing. And again, let's try and get 6,000 subscribers as fast as possible. So right, we faced Yokohama Marinos. Now, apparently they were the champions of the Japanese team. So our friendly games kind of exponentially grew. We played one against an average Japanese side. And then the last day we played another friendly game against the champions of Japan. So the difficulty definitely increased. Now, both of the friendly games that we played in Japan ended as a draw. However, this was way more entertaining than the first draw. Now, to be honest with you, being a friendly match, the one positive thing which I'll say is that being a friendly match and coming back from a 3-1 is not something you see very often. Because first of all, it's something which you don't really see when it comes to Roma, going down 3-1 and actually, kind of re-getting the result and trying to get back in the game. And it's definitely something which you don't see in friendly games mentality, let's call it that way. You don't see Roma just give it's all best when it's down 3-1 to try and even win the game, and we drew 3-3. So that's, I think, it's a positive note on the game. We're losing 3-1 and then we managed to get back. El Shaarawy did not. I watched the game. It was this morning, obviously. I was at school, but I came back at home, watched the last 10 minutes. I don't know what the referee was thinking when he did not give that penalty on El Shaarawy. That was the clearest penalty ever. But again, I'm not here to complain about a friendly game. I could not care less. So we could have easily won this game. I think the two negative notes are the defense. I mean, come on, conceding 3 goals against a Japanese team. No offense whatsoever to Japanese teams. I think it's a bit ridiculous. And that's potentially an emphasis to Thiago Pinto from Jose to try and buy a new centre-back in this January transfer window. Because, it is a friendly game. Not that I'm massively worried about this. But, conceding 3 goals is still a lot. You're still conceding 3 goals. I wouldn't necessarily blame the defense. I would blame the goalkeeper. The most negative note on the basis of everything when it comes to today's game was the goalkeeper. Svilor today has shown one very important thing, that he is not ready to start. He needs to grow. He's very young, but today he didn't understand absolutely anything. And the mistakes, the reason why we conceded 3 goals, yes, obviously the defense takes some responsibilities, but rather than the defense, I think it was the goalkeeper today, with an own goal and the ball which went underneath his legs. Again, I'm not here complaining. He's a very young goalkeeper. And the reason why we bought him is obviously to think about the future, to grow him, especially next to a goalkeeper like Rui Patricio. Grow him, his confidence. I think he lacks confidence. Velo right now lacks a lot of confidence. But, this really puts to mind that if by any chance Rui Patricio gets injured, our season is over. Because Velo has clearly shown us today that he's not ready to start. If Rui Patricio undergoes any minimal injury, then with Svilor, we're going to lose points. I'm not trying to downgrade anything. It's just the process of a football player. You're young, you lack the confidence, and therefore, you're not going to start, and you're not in a position to start. So I think he's shown us that he's not ready to start. Bauer then got subbed in for him, had a few more saves. But I think at the end of the day, I've said this in the last live stream, this Japan tour, unlike many tours that the team does in Portugal regularly, that the team does around Europe, maybe also in the US this summer coming ahead, there were talks saying that potentially Roma could have a tour in the United States. And when it comes to these tours, I think the main objective is obviously to do the best things possible, to try and win as many games, to try and prepare your friendly games really well. And I'm not trying to hide the fact that going to Japan was useless. There was definitely a limit to the team going to Japan to train, keep the rhythm in the legs, and prepare for January. But it wasn't the priority. The main priority of this Japan tour, let's call it the winter Japan tour, was to expand the marketing and to expand the name of the club, the image of the club in the Far East, to a population which would love to know about Roma more, which would try to kind of establish a bond with Japanese teams, with Japanese people and all of that. And I think it's definitely been a successful trip when it comes to that. That is the reason why in a couple of weeks the team is departing again and is now going to Portugal. That is where I think we should worry more about friendly games. There's still friendly games, but that is where I want to see the team more focused, because that is a tour going in Portugal. The priority of going to Portugal is to train well. And I don't think the priority going to Japan was to do that. But yeah, I won't speak about the game any further. I think we've ended this Japan tour. The team is flying back in Rome tomorrow, I believe. And then the players are getting 12 days break. 12 days is a lot to just reset and just restart again. And then after these 12 days, in the mid of December, the team is going to go for one more week in Portugal. Now, I think a lot of players need this 12-day break, this 12-day vacation. It's a vacation called by Jose. Now, and I was kind of, we talk about football with logical. We talk about football and everything. And I was saying a thing which, it sounds funny, but imagine Tammy, because I think Tammy is the one who needs this 12th break the most. Imagine Tammy rents a cottage in the middle of the Finnish forest, the Swedish forest, with all the snow, with all the reindeers walking around you. Just him and his girlfriend. And he just detaches from social media just for at least 3 days. And it's just him, his girlfriend, and the snow around him. Just isolation. And no interference with social media. And yeah, don't get me wrong, you probably have a lot of sex, but at the same time, if Tammy does that, mark my words, the first game he's back, he's going to score a hat-trick. He just needs to get the phone and just dust it away. Because it's not helping. Social media impact is not helping him. So, just in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the snow, in the middle of polar bears, reindeers, owls, absolutely everything. Relax in a cottage, in a wooden cottage with a fireplace, him and his girlfriend, no phone, no social media,
If he does that, Tammy, if you're watching, I can rent you a cottage if you don't. If you do that, he's gonna just, his mindset will be better than Cristiano Ronaldo's. That's what I think this break is focused on. It's about that. It's not about, relaxing your legs. Your legs haven't done anything in the past weeks. It's about that. So yeah, I mean, let's move on to the transfer news, because we are monitoring Daichi Kamada, who is a Japanese midfielder who is actually classified as one of the most creative midfielders in the Bundesliga. Plays for the Japanese national team, won a Europa League, just like Evan Ndika last season, was a big part of that Europa League campaign. And we're monitoring this situation. Now, it's nothing concrete like the one with Ndika, it's just Roma trying to understand something more when it comes to Daichi Kamada. If he's another player who, by the way, will end the contract this summer, so maybe it could be a hit which we could prepare this summer and all of that. But maybe we can also buy him in this January transfer window. And yeah, so one thing which I'll note down. This is very important. Now, you know when I was saying just a few minutes ago how this Japan tour was all about establishing a connection between Rome and Japanese teams. Now, the first question which Mourinho got asked in his press conference in Japan was, would you ever buy a Japanese player? Surprise, surprise. The day the Japan tour ends for Roma, we have a transfer news which is linked with a Japanese player. Was it pre-planned? Was it programmed? I have no clue. But this is significant. This really shows you what this Japan tour was meant to be. What this Japan tour was basically the primary priority of Roma. It's to get to know Japanese teams. It's to establish connections with Japanese teams, establish bonds, establish, just connections in general. And the first question that he got asked in the press conference, go back and watch it because it's on Roma's official YouTube channel. Would you ever buy a Japanese player? And today we're getting transfer news involving a Japanese player, which is significant. And so yeah, this is definitely the first thing which I want to point out when it comes to this. Another thing is how we're intensively talking with Eintracht Frankfurt. Is this a sign? Absolutely not. It's just because they've got interesting players and Thiago Pinto and Mourinho like some of their players. And Ndika in defense, Kamada in the midfielder. So yeah, I mean, it's not a life sign. But Eintracht Frankfurt, what did they do last season? They won the Europa League. And how did they win the Europa League? They won the Europa League by the underdogs, by the dark horses, by beating West Ham, by beating Barcelona, by beating significant teams. We are in a position in the Europa League where we're not the favourites. But it would also be a mistake to think that it's not an objective. Because yes, it's hard to get it. It's hard to win it. But look at Eintracht Frankfurt last season. And Roma knows that a lot of the Eintracht Frankfurt players are not experienced players. They're just players who gave a massive impact to the team and led them with a massive European campaign to win the Europa League for a team which before that was as irrelevant as a dump of shit. Excuse me. Excuse my language. So it's just, I don't know. There's definitely something linked to this. We want to try and be like them. Now again, this is by any means. I'm trying to say Roma will win the Europa League because, sometimes you also have very lucky instincts, and I definitely think luck was important when it comes to Eintracht Frankfurt. But they won the Europa League as the underdogs, and building on the Conference League victory last season, Roma will try to win the Europa League by underdogs. It's wrong to think that we're not going to try and win this. It's wrong to think that we're in our Europa League position and we're not going to fight to get it. Because yes, it's hard, but our objective still remains to get as furthest as possible. And furthest as possible means trying to win it. And I definitely think this is significant because Roma know that a lot of these Eintracht Frankfurt players won the Europa League. If you get Ndika, he's a player who won the Europa League as an underdog. If you buy Kamada, he is a player who won the Europa League as an underdog. And this is why we're getting intensive talks between two sides, between Roma and Eintracht Frankfurt. So when it comes to Kamada, there is really nothing planned. There's really nothing concrete going on between the two sides. I definitely think that these intensive talks between the two sides are way more on the Ndika side, are way more leading to let's talk about Ndika rather than Kamada. But at the same time, if you have some time spare, I wouldn't mind if we speak about Kamada a bit. So it's just like that. So Ndika is the priority. In the background, Roma is working when it comes to Kamada, monitoring the situation, monitoring the clubs which could get into the Kamada competition, monitoring him as a player himself, because he's a creative player. Now, again, when I say he got named one of the most creative players in the Bundesliga, I'm not making this up. I've read this on Instagram. So you see, there's an interest on Kamada. There's really nothing major on Kamada. And I think, as I just said, the talks ongoing between the two sides, the negotiations which are potentially about to start between the two sides, are definitely sticking to Ndika. But, Thiago Pinto is there going, okay, let's talk about Ndika. By the way, would you like a cup of tea? If you have 5 minutes spare, let's have a quick convo about Kamada as well. It doesn't take much time, and I'm interested in him. I know his contract is about to expire, so maybe we can sort things out. And definitely another reason why Japanese names are growing is by the fact that Japan have won against Germany. Now it's something big to the nation. It's something big to the population who watches football. Just in the history of football, that victory will remain there. Kamada was a part of that. That is definitely another reason why the media are launching a Japanese player. When it comes to Roma, I definitely think it's linked to our preseason in Japan. I'm convinced about this. I'm absolutely convinced. The day that preseason ends, it's just like, if it's not planned, then what is it? Dark magic? Like, come on. The day the Japan tour ends, read the news, Japan player in our transfer list. So again, I don't know if it's true. I definitely think the priority of the two sides right now remains Evan Ndika as a centre back. But hey, let's talk about Kamada as well. And I think, as I just said many times in previous live streams, squad depth will be so important from the time we restart. I mean, we're going to play in so many competitions. We're going to play in the Europa League. And if there's one thing which Eintracht Frankfurt has shown to us last season is that, yes, they didn't have a central player which made them win the Europa League, but they had a lot of interesting players, and squad depth was definitely something which Eintracht Frankfurt, had to themselves. So yeah, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, fresh new week, Japan tour ends, 12-day holiday for these players, and the transfer news continue to happen. It's that time of the season where it's all about Thiago Pinto masterclasses. It's all about Thiago Pinto pre-planning meetings with other teams, with other agents, to try and get as many players as possible and improve the squad depth. But yeah, I mean, if you haven't already, ladies and gentlemen, please smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're getting closer and closer to 6,000 subscribers. I can't do anything other than share these videos with you guys. But what you can do, which is free, and if you like this channel and if you want to support this channel, is to click that red button down below if you haven't already and smash that like button. Smash it. You do not understand how much he supports me. So yeah, and I will catch you tomorrow. Tomorrow's Tuesday. I'll catch you tomorrow with more news, with more transfer news, with more general news as the team returns to Italy. And so yeah, I'll catch you soon. Simon, by the way, let me know in the comments thoughts on this Japan tour. Let me know the positives, the negatives. Let me also know your little thought on Daichi Kamada. Yes. So yeah, I'll catch you soon. Simon, out.